Welcome to the Landscaping Podcast. My name is Joel Barnett and I am your host. And in today's episode, I'm talking with Nick Bransgrove from Lawns in Good Nick. So Nick started up his Instagram page a couple of years ago after he had started renovating his home lawn and realized how much he enjoyed doing it, and he started getting better at it and researching it. So then decided to share his tips on how to get a lawn looking as good as his. And it's gradually grown since then to just ticking over 100,000 followers recently. He's also got a YouTube channel and TikTok as well, so he's starting to branch out. So not actually working in the industry, but it's a great example, and there's a fair bit of social media talk in this episode about how to grow your channel and how you're going to be successful at doing that, and also how you can have a passion for something you do and then make a bit of income from it. So there's a little bit of lawn tips in this chat and a bit of social media, but hopefully you enjoy this chat with Nick Bransgrove. Nick, thank you very much for joining us on the Landscaping Podcast. My first question for you is, how did you start in the industry?
Thanks for having me, mate. And yeah, you probably don't get this much, but I'm not in the industry. So
That's the first answer like that. So
yeah. Off to a good start. No, look, yeah, in terms of working in the industry, I don't, I guess, work in the industry. I've got a social media platform, YouTube, Instagram, where I share all of my sort of gardening, DIY, predominantly lawn care sort of stuff on there. And it's just been, as we were just chatting about before we started, it's just been a bit of a natural progression of being into all that sort of stuff. And my wife convinced me to start the Instagram account nearly 2.5 years ago. And yeah, it's just become a big part of my life. And yeah, all this sort of stuff is something I really enjoy and spend a lot of time doing, and hopefully using my platforms and things like that to get more people out there having a crack. Because yeah, I've got basic skills, and hopefully can share those things, and people see this random dad doing it and think they can have a go themselves, I guess, is the idea.
So where did the passion start for it? Like, have you always been interested in looking after a lawn?
I think I'd probably credit my mum a bit to that. She always was out in the garden, and whenever she could, she was buying new plants and mulching and presenting a nice house and new garden beds and all that sort of thing. So that really is probably growing up around that is where it's sort of come from. When we bought our first house about 6 years ago, we had a lot of renovating to do. And as I just again said before to you, though, when we moved in, I didn't own a power tool, could barely use one. Learned a bit from my father-in-law in that process of renovating, and made a lot of mistakes in all of that process, and some of the garden beds and projects and things that I did at the old place. But yeah, I think it was just sort of a natural thing that once we had a massive pile of rubbish where we were just throwing plasterboard and random stuff out on the front lawn. And then by the time I got to the point of, okay, we can clear this all the way and take it to the tip, it was like I was all of a sudden just found myself out there watering this dead patch. And there's one photo, I'd love to find it actually, but it's the first time the lawn's all grown back through and everything, and I'm regularly mowing it, not really knowing what I'm doing that well. But I've stood back and gone, that looks all right. That's pretty green, which would have just been due to the fact that it was spring or maybe early autumn or something, just due to the natural weather conditions. And yeah, it stood back and went, that looks nice. And so I'm probably from there went onto YouTube and put in lawn tips or something like that, came across Ben's channel, and just went from there into the Lawn Fanatics Facebook groups and that kind of thing. And it's just become gradually, a big part of my life. Yeah.
Was that Ben Sims you were referring to?
Yeah.
So what's his channel?
Lawn Tips.
Oh, yeah.
Lawn Tips. And I did ask him one day, and he cleverly called the channel Lawn Tips for people for that exact reason, going on and just Googling lawn tips. And yeah, clever.
Yeah. Well, YouTube is the second biggest search engine on the internet that people use, so it certainly makes sense.
Well, it's something I do. Yeah. First thing is, how do you do something? I'm not as much of an article person. I'm more of a, can I get a little YouTube video that gives a good explanation? So yeah, it's a good way to do it. And yeah, simple but effective for him with the name he's gone with, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things, like sometimes it's really important what you name your page or business, but other times it doesn't matter. Like eventually it doesn't matter because you build up the name. It's whatever it is. So, but it's a good way to get a head start.
Yeah, it's something that I've been really interested listening to more of that business sort of stuff. And my wife runs her own business and that sort of thing. So learning more and more over the last few years, I guess, as she's been into business more and listening to different podcasts. Luke talks about business a lot. I think you on Luke's podcast talked a bit about your business and you doing things, and I find that sort of thing really interesting. That was behind the scenes kind of stuff of how you run things, and things like naming businesses and what you specialize in and all that sort of stuff. It's really, really interesting stuff.
Yeah, I always use Apple as a good example of the fact that it doesn't matter what you call your business because they're going okay, and they just
Yeah.
name that for a fruit. So
Yeah. Even like bands and stuff. Bands got random names, and you're
yeah,
like, if you actually think, you're just like, oh, Tame Impala. Like, yeah, they're just Tame Impala. But it's actually, you're like, when you sit back, you're like, it's a pretty weird name, isn't it?
yeah,
There's so many things like that. But yeah.
yeah. I actually heard him on I can't remember his name, but they heard the main guy off there off on a I think it was Mark Howard's
Howie
podcast.
Gaines, yes.
Yeah, he was
Yeah,
on
he's
that. He
on
was
there.
awesome to listen to. So
Mm.
that was a good
Yeah, the
one.
artist series is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love
So
that.
when you were out of school, what did you do after that? Like, what did you get into?
I went and did an exercise science degree. So it wasn't until halfway through the third year, so just about finished that I decided to go into teaching. Actually, I became a PE teacher. So I did that I did my master's in the end. So I was at uni for 5 years. So that master's in teaching has really helped me to make Instagram videos now. But it's funny how life goes. But after I finished that master's, I did a few months of work in Australia and then went over to England, taught over there for 9 months. Well, taught a little bit, adventured around a fair bit more and did a lot of travel and that sort of thing. And then came back from there with my now wife, and just gone from there with kids and marriage and houses and things like that.
Yeah, just living the life. And
Yeah.
you're so you're not working technically at the moment as well, are you? Because you're a stay-at-home dad.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it's one of those ones where, the barber says, you're back to work soon, or, how was work or whatever. And it's like, I actually don't work. Yeah, I sort of was a year ago. So I taught for up until the year 2022 ended. And then, sort of last year. So we've been in our new house now for coming up to a year and a half. So October 2022, we moved in. So we've got a bit of renovating to do, and our boys are in kinder and childcare 5 days a week. So we wanted to be able to bring that back. They're not stuck with me all the time now. They still get to see their friends a few days a week. But so it's sort of the idea was for me to be able to step away from our workplace that I didn't love, didn't support me maybe at times when my kids were really having a lot of illnesses and issues early 2022. So we sort of had a conversation early in that year. So it was a long time in the departure lounge throughout 2022, pushing through to the end of that year. But so I've spent the last year, renovating the house, looking after the kids, doing swimming lessons and all that sort of thing, and continuing to build the social media stuff. I would say my social media really is more of a part-time job now. The YouTube videos, I'm starting to get more and more views and a little bit more money come through that platform. And I guess, I do a bit of sponsored work and things like that through those platforms. So I guess, I do stuff that takes time. People pay me money. So I guess it sort of counts as a job.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I certainly wasn't being disrespectful, because there's more and more people doing that now. Then it's just sort of a newer industry. But most people who do it don't like to be called influencers, but that's basically what they are, because they're influencing people to buy products and use certain things.
Yeah. It's a whole rabbit hole talking about the whole topic of it. And I think it's something that people will, they're probably becoming more understanding and aware of how it all works. And I think really it comes down to, for people who see sponsored content and that sort of thing, it comes down to, I guess, trust that you have with those people. Like I've got this tool that I just got from HoseLink, and it's amazing at removing paspalum. Amazing at it. And for herbicide options that you've got with paspalum on Kikuyu is basically none, unless you get a paintbrush and really careful. So I've got this tool, and I just had a quick play with it yesterday afternoon, and I'm like, I was having so much fun, but had to cook dinner and look after kids and things like that. And the 2-year-old accidentally turned the hose on and blasted himself in the face. So that was the whole thing. But I'm genuinely like, I've got the 4-year-old home unwell today, but I was going to be recording an ad for that tool today, so I'll do it tomorrow, hopefully. But I'm genuinely like, this tool is genuinely awesome. I love this. I can't wait to actually get out and remove my paspalum. And it's about hopefully being able to convey that message to be like, look, everyone hates paspalum. Here's this tool. This is how you use it. It does an awesome job. And being able to try and say that without people like, oh, sponsored, he's just saying it because they paid him to. Whereas for me, it's like, if I've never been given a script or been told you have to say this about this product, it's like there might have been time, or there has been time, sorry, where I've said, because it might be quite broad for whatever reason, it's like, is there any particular thing you would like to highlight about this tool, this service, or whatever? Is there anything, to help me to narrow down how I'm going to deliver it? But no one's ever said, you have to say that the runtime on this battery is amazing, or you have to say this. And to be honest, if a brand came at me saying those sorts of things about, look, keep yourself, I don't want it, I'm not going to be told what to say. So yeah, I guess that for me is really trying to be able to be like, look, these sprinklers, this tool, this fertilizer, it's genuinely great. So yeah, and being able to try and convey that message is hopefully something that I can succeed at and help people if they are going to go and spend their money and be influenced to spend it on stuff that I've used and enjoy. So yeah.
Yeah, that's the most important thing. I reckon Luke has said that Luke from the Australian Lawn and Garden podcast, he said that he's been offered stuff, but he wouldn't have used it. So he sort of knocked it back. So you've got to be genuine with the stuff that you do promote. Does that Hoselink tool, is that like does that mechanically remove the weed?
Yeah, it's just like, it's a little, I think it's just called a hand weeder, but yeah, it's got like a little fork on it with you can see what I'm doing.
Yeah, got a bell curve on the bottom to lever it out.
Yeah, like a little semicircular kind of thing. You just dig it in and it flips it out really, really well. And that little root ball of paspalum is so hard to get. So yeah, it's great. I think it's like $15 or something. So it's like, this is awesome. And this is a problem that I've got, and I'm going to be able to solve it. And hopefully other people out there as well, instead of going for, chemicals that have got DSMA in it and trying to paint, that's some of the advice, people say, oh, paint it with Roundup. And I can only imagine people hearing that, going out in their thongs and, a singlet and not putting gloves on and mixing it up and doing these things. So yeah, I think the non-chemical route and a great tool from the great little chance I've had to play with it is being great. And so, yeah, it's a whole interesting sort of side of marketing, I guess, with how it runs. And I think for me, it's works really, really well. And it's something, if I was a brand, if I had a company that, I think it's such a relevant way to market things, because, do you want, if you put an ad on TV and 100,000 people see it versus if you put something on Instagram and 10,000 people see it, that's a targeted 10,000 people, like that's probably a higher quality, bang for your buck.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. But do you listen to Gary V podcasts?
No, I don't. No,
because I listened to him. I listened to him for ages, and then I stopped for a while, and then I'm back on again. But something he talks about when people are asking him for advice on how to push their product is to get influencers to show it, like people who actually care about it. And he's not talking about people with hundreds of thousands of followers. You can be someone with 10,000 followers, but they could be 10,000, hardcore local followers, so that you don't need the hundreds of thousands. Like I've got my percentage of followers has just grown heaps, but a lot of them are in Brazil and Argentina. So not a lot of relevance in, local products that you're going to sell. So the big numbers don't necessarily mean it's any better, but using people who are trusted is an amazing way to sell your product.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, it's something, do you know about the brand Gymshark?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they, gym clothing brand who early in the YouTube social media days, they just sent out so many t-shirts and singlets, and I can't remember the guy's name. I don't know if you remember it, but I've heard him on a podcast talk about, how it all happened. And early on, people were like, yeah, sure, I'll take a shirt. I'll take some shirts, I'll wear. And so like Gymshark's just everywhere. And so, I think people have got more understanding of their worth now, and that, you're really getting something from that. And if someone wants to, give you something that the retail price is $80, will probably actually cost them 40 or something like that. So, they've got to make one sale to kind of make that money back. So, I think people rightfully are more aware that when they get sent that stuff and show it off, that they're a billboard for it in a way.
Mm.
So, but early on, if you got onto it early, if you were any brand, fertilizer or clothing, anything, and you could get it everywhere, people are seeing it. Oh, yeah, and that's, I guess, marketing 101, isn't it? get people seeing your stuff.
Can you remember your first offer to show a product?
But I think I actually reached out to a brand the first time, and then Ryobi and Munns approached me the winter leading up to spring, probably when I'd been in it for, at that stage, 10 or so months.
How many followers do you reckon you had at that time?
15, 16,000. I had about 2,000, and then I had this reel that was just me edging, it sped up, time lapse kind of thing, that went for 15 seconds or something, that had like 22 million views, which took me from like 2 or so thousand to 14, 15-ish thousand within a few weeks. So that was a big explosion. And then I think that's kind of how it works as well. Because you've got 40 odd thousand.
So about just before Christmas, I had 21,000.
Yeah,
And
right.
now it's at 54 just from one reel. So I got 30 something thousand just from one reel that I'd play. It's the third time I posted it, slightly different each time, but
Yeah,
you could it could be the same thing, just slightly edited, and it just reaches a different audience for some reason. So that's had 6.6 million views.
Yeah.
But of those views, 50% are Australian and the rest are all international. So
yeah.
but
that helps with the reach, doesn't it? Like, that's still going to help it,
Yeah.
for you and your business as a business owner. Because that's something, Luke's talked about a bit on his podcast as well, is that it doesn't help if you've got, those followers are international, that sort of thing. But if you are getting, I know when I had, say, 1,000 followers, my videos would get 2,000 views, 3,000 views. So those people don't necessarily need to be followers, but sort of now when my views are, 15, 20, 30, 40 for an average video, that reach. And if I did have a business, I'm pretty confident for me now with my audience that if I opened up my, books to start a business, lawn care, lawn renovations, that sort of thing, I reckon I'd be pretty busy pretty quickly. I get that many people asking, who know I'm in Victoria, asking, do you do consults? Can you do this? Do you do lawn renovations? So yeah, as much as, I think the more you grow, it's there's still the chance of your reach getting to the right people. So yeah, I think it is fairly relevant. Obviously, those people in Brazil are probably not going to help you out too much, but still, if those people in Brazil comment and watch the whole video, it's still helping it expand to more people who are potentially in your zone where you're trying to get business.
I'm happy to head out to Rio to do a design if they're interested in listening.
Pay the airfares and
exactly.
have you out there for a week or two.
Yeah, I'll take some security with me just in case, but yeah, I'd head out there.
Yeah, just for.
Do you get people from crazy areas like America or somewhere asking you to mow their lawn?
No, I haven't had that. I've always found that Americans always think that America is the whole world.
Yeah.
They comment as if I'm in America. It's like, no, actually, there are other countries in the world.
Yeah.
No, I don't have a homeowners association here. Yeah. There are actually other countries, just so you're aware.
Yeah. Other than that initial like 14,000 or so from that reel, have you had any other big leaps, or has it just been all consistent since then?
Little boosts here and there. There's been times, even over this winter, I probably had a patch of time there where I was staying sort of about the same, kind of gaining 40 followers, losing 40 followers a day sort of thing.
All right.
When I was on the project in September, and so there's a massive spike where I had like 500 followers in literally 2 minutes when that story aired. But then sort of, it's one of those things, I was talking to Ben Sims about it, that, always throughout winter, views die down, engagement dies down, that sort of thing. And, it just is what it is. People are not searching that sort of stuff as much anymore, and it's not as relevant. But springtime, I've had a big boost in spring. I had a reel that's got, I think I last saw it had like 4 and a bit million, and it was just of me, being excited to come home from holidays and mow the lawn. So no doubt there was plenty of followers from that. So yeah, there's been little ones along the way that get extra views and, get random boosts, and they're obviously where all the extra followers are going to come from. But yeah, I think I remember last Christmas, just before Christmas, I was about 20,000 November-ish. And because I put a thing up, 20,000 followers, like how cool is that? And then it was about 6 days later, I got to 25,000 followers. So it's definitely not linear.
Yep.
Is not my experience, that there's random things, those viral kind of videos, anywhere, 100,000 plus, that really cause the boosts in the following for sure.
Yep. And when you had the first few that were going crazy, did you start overthinking things about how it's doing it, or thinking more about the science of what's going to work and what's not?
I definitely thought I was a lot better than I was at that time. Like when I said I reached out to that brand, I was sort of like, I've got 10,000 now, and tomorrow I've got 11,000. Now I've got 12,000. I was thinking I was pretty good, to be honest. I think like probably got a little bit ahead of myself and was really excited about it. Because then when it died, and, wasn't getting views anymore, and then I stayed at around the same for a long time. And so it was like, like a little bit flattening from that perspective. And I think that's something now that I do not get caught up on the numbers. Even since I started YouTube a year ago, there's one particular guy who I've followed for like 10 years. I've watched his videos. He started off doing like gym content. Now he's like about to get married and, owns businesses and stuff like that. But something he's talked about when he talks about his relationship with his YouTube and stuff is how hung up on, the views he is, and he sees something's doing well and it really affects him. And it was something I was actually a little bit concerned about. Like I was like, I hope I don't really do that in starting YouTube and look at the numbers, because it will give you a ranking out of your previous 10 videos out of 10 as to how well it's doing. And I can honestly say, like, I every now and again will just go on and go, I've got 3,000 subscribers now. Like I really don't watch it or look at it when I'm getting those bursts in followers. Like that first time when the video was going viral, any chance I got at work, I'm checking and I'm like, in the last 48 minutes, I've had another 123 followers. And I was like really excited and looking at it all the time. And just, the other day I was tracking sort of coming up to 100,000 followers, because that was a pretty cool sort of number. And I was kind of checking it, a few times a day. But in terms of really getting hung up on the numbers and that being what, it's something I've really tried to mentally steer away from, and kind of go, that's cool. I just got to that milestone or whatever. Like, again, we were talking before we started about numbers and how we're both kind of numbers guys. And so, yeah, it's obviously great. It's great if all of a sudden tomorrow my videos started to get 2,000 views each and I started losing 1,000 followers a day, I'd obviously be a bit disappointed because I put so much time and effort into it. But in terms of really getting hung up on it, I think it's something that I've got a pretty good handle on these days.
Yep. Yeah, it's the same with compliments. So I'm pretty indifferent when someone gives me a compliment for that same reason. Because if you get excited about numbers going up, then you get depressed about them going down. So if you get caught up in someone saying something nice about you, then you'll get upset if someone says something negative about you. So if you try and be sort of flat, then you can't get too high or too low.
Yeah.
Do you enjoy getting the negative comments on your posts?
I've only had really one that's ever really fired me up, to be honest, which was someone saying it was something about the lawn being soft, and some guy commented saying it's soft like his kids or something like that. And at the time, my kids were 1 and 3. So, like Instagram actually wouldn't let me post the response because it was pretty
Aggressive.
animated, just giving him a little bit of an idea of what I was thinking. But I did put it on my story, and I had a few people and also let them know their thoughts about, it's not the harshest comment in the world, but it's still, putting down a 1 and a 3-year-old, that's pretty low. I mean, there was one recently where I got this comment. I can't even remember the comment, but you go on sometimes the people's profile and they've got their profile on public, and you see these beautiful little 2, 3, 4, 5-year-old kids, kids in general. And you're like, far out. If this is what this person is like to a random human being on social media, putting them down, like I had one on that post of me coming home from holidays, excited to mow the lawn. How is this not embarrassing for you? And I replied saying, it's a bit of fun. I'd be more embarrassed if I was commenting this sort of stuff on random people's videos. And that my comments got like 1,000 likes on it. Because it's like, like just keep scrolling,
Yeah.
and for those like kids of those, it's like if you're the sort of person to be going through your phone and you're like, oh, that person's doing something they enjoy, I've got to let them know that it's actually, I hate it and that sucks and it's embarrassing, like just, scroll on, keep going. But yeah, that it probably unfortunately says a bit about that person and what they might be like. And yeah, so sometimes you see the kids there and on their profile, it's like, I feel bad for you. Yeah, because people don't understand as well. They interact with you. It's something I've actually had a bit of fun with recently at times is, oh, thanks for letting me know that. How you going? How's your day been? To try and keep them commenting, keep them engaging, keep them coming back to the post. So it keeps boosting the views a bit. But yeah, it does, I guess, sometimes actually make me feel sad for that person. What are you going through to, if someone commented on that same post, if this was me, I'd effing kill myself. And I'm like, what? Are you having a bad day? Do you need a hug, mate? Like, so yeah, the comments can be pretty rough sometimes. I'm actually, as a person in my day-to-day life, I don't take criticism amazingly well. Like me and my wife have found a pretty good sweet spot of communication, and I don't how to best communicate with each other, which is good relationship, I'd say. And so yeah, it's actually great the way that I do cop it from social media, that I actually honestly, because people comment back sometimes when I share funny responses on my Instagram story, like, don't let it get to you, don't give them the time of day. And I honestly see the comments pop up sometimes and I'm like, oh, I've got such a funny response for this. Like it genuinely is funny. And, a lot of people will reply and have a bit of a laugh at it too. And yeah, anyway.
Yeah. The thing I like about it when someone says, you'll post something and someone says, I hate this, it looks terrible, is that the more they comment on it, the more likely your posts are going to get shown in their feed going forward, because Instagram thinks that they like it because they're not that good at reading the negative comments yet.
Yeah. It's all interaction. It's all views. It's all comments. Like, keep it coming.
Yeah. There's people who do things deliberately wrong for that same reason, to get people commenting on it, and then that boosts the engagement so it gets more views.
Yeah. Tim the Lawnmower Man's an expert at that, actually, of creative captions and things like that. I had once where I installed the door to the outdoor entertaining area and I put the caption at the start, local dad makes a huge mistake or something like that. And then I chopped out the hinges and put in the handle and everything. And then I walked through the door at the end, just gave a thumbs up for the camera. And then the caption was, just kidding, I nailed it. And so there were heaps of comments that was like, bloody hell, I kept watching to see what the mistake was. So look, sometimes you've got to do those sorts of things. I'd another video that got like 3 or 4 million views, and the caption at the start was, sand killed my lawn. There's so many people, like, you're heavily top dressed and all the Americans come in and they're like, oh, you're going to smother it, you're going to kill it. It's like, have you heard of Kaku? This stuff will grow through, set it on fire, let cows trample on it, concrete over the top of it, and it'll still come back lush and green in 3 or 4 weeks. Like, anyway, so sometimes you have a bit of fun with some of those things.
Yeah. And with yours, so your lawn is Kaikuyu, is it?
Yes, yeah, that's what.
And was that there existing and you just brought it back to life, or did you start brand new?
No, so yeah, just working with what was already here. We do want to potentially remodel the front at some point. So yeah, we've got 5 really annoying sections out there. And what's actually been a fun challenge is how different the front and back lawn were in this place. So there was about 680 of grass out the back, which I've now got down. Oh no, hang on, a bit more. Which I've now got sectioned off like kids' playground area where I've put sandpit and some fruit trees and a trampoline and stuff like that. So it's now about 500 of cylinder mode, nice lawn out the back. And it was really thick and overgrown to start with. So it's a huge process of chopping it down, over the period of months while I was still, we're moving in, working full time, etc. Someone at one point commented, mate, just scalp it and scarify it down to the dirt, top dress it. And it's like, that's going to take a week. I can't just do that. If you have any concept, like, I need to take a week or 2 off work to do this. So I gradually cut that down and it, got it nice. And whereas out the front being a big battle because it was really thin and wispy and struggling, So ended up getting a soil analysis done. Finally got around to it. So October or so this year. So that came back, and I've added in some extra potassium and sulfur and things like that. And now that's thickening up and coming back to life, which is nice. But yeah, just seeing those two very different lawns as well to work with has been a good experience just for my own experience and upskilling and that sort of thing. So yeah, but it's a lot of fun having this much space to work with. Like even just an hour before we started, I was out throwing the frisbee around in the backyard and that sort of thing. And for all the people who comment saying, "Oh, this could be a food forest," it'd be hard to play frisbee in a food forest.
Yeah, yeah. That's again, no matter what you do, you're not going to please everyone. So you might as well do what you enjoy doing.
Yeah, that's it. And that's something like, you give 20 random people a patch of land. Some people are going to have an amazing lawn. Some people are going to have full veggie garden. Someone's going to put a motocross track. Someone's going to put a dance studio. Someone's going to put you know,
Yeah,
yeah.
diversity is good. So you don't want everyone to have a food forest.
Yeah, and like I've got plenty of trees and things that are still growing. So hopefully they'll be more prominent for people in the future when they go to comment on the lack of trees. I've just started building my veggie garden. So yeah, look, but still you always have, I'm sure, even in, a couple of years' time when my lily pillies are 3 meters tall and I've got veggies coming from everywhere and, gardens flourishing and growing, that I'll still have people who see 3 seconds of an angle where you can't see that stuff.
Yeah.
All that grass, you could be growing so much food, you could feed you. So yeah, anyway, that's the nature of the beast.
And when did you get your first cylinder mower? Like, were you trying to take care of yours with a rotary first, or did you get onto one early?
Yeah, it's just rotoring. And then my wife, she's pretty incredible. She surprised me with a mass bought cylinder mower for Christmas 2 years ago. Christmas 2 years ago. So I was running with that for a year and a half, and then for my 30th last year, she bought me a MoMaster. So, which is handy now in terms of logistics. Like it's an incredible machine, but yeah, in terms of out the front on that 180 squares, the 20-inch mass sport does the job out there really nicely. But it was taking me a bit of to just do a straight up and down normal pattern out the backyard. It was taking sort of 25 to 30 minutes. Whereas now with the 26-inch MoMaster, a straight up and down simple pattern is probably 18 minutes or so. So much more fit for purpose between both of those yards and good extra content. A lot of people, as if you got this brand new mower and you're not using you're still using the old mower on the front yard. And it's like, yeah, so I've just done a cylinder mower series and, all those sorts of things to talk about the right mower for the right space. But yeah, so that's all really fun. And stripes is where I get most of my enjoyment from lawn care and making them look really nice. So yeah.
Yeah, I just watched I think there's 5 videos in that cylinder series, and yeah, it's so good seeing like that information about cylinder mowers because most people don't know much about them because like again Luke talks about them. They're pretty popular in Western Australia, but outside of that, they're not as popular.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, and I think it's something as well that I was kind of, even Christmas Eve, I remember I was sitting out in the backyard with my wife and I was sort of saying, just talking about it in general, like I had been doing for months. Oh, like I don't know. And, because there were certain things I was unsure of about, and a little bit intimidated by the maintenance and all that sort of thing, which is great now to be able to have the platform to create a cylinder mower series. So even on the first episode, I had 2 comments from people saying, well, this has just confirmed that I don't want a cylinder mower. So thanks for that, which is good. Like, because some people no doubt have gotten cylinder mowers and I've had thousands of messages in my time on social media and plenty about cylinder mowers and people that have had them and not known about adjusting the reel to bed knife and that kind of thing, sharpening, backlapping, all that sort of stuff. So to be able to have now the platform to get the information out there about, hey, if you're keen and you want a cylinder mower, this is how it's done. And I actually think it was a great result because those 2 guys, they might have been thinking, I really want a cylinder mower, but then they've seen it and gone, what you need to do a renovation, you need a pretty level lawn, you've got to do this extra maintenance, look, I think I'd actually rather fertilize and just run the rotary over it once a week and, keep it watered and keep it looking tidy. Maybe that's not for me. So I think that's a great result.
Yeah, they could have spent $2,000 and wasted it.
Yeah, that's it. So yeah, I think that's something that it's trying to think back to those times when I didn't know as much as I did and trying to share, because my target market is definitely 25 to 35/40-ish, sort of kind of first homeowner sort of thing, of people who bought a new house, having kids, that kind of thing, that want to make their yard look nice and have a nice space to play with their kids. So yeah, that's definitely my target market. So trying to get out there and trying to remember those questions I had when I was first getting into it and learning and all that sort of stuff. Even the lawn programs I've got a low input program where it's an average of like one thing per month to do to your lawn, simple stuff, no liquid fertilizers and things like that in it, just the basics to fertilize, bit of soil wetter, some weed control, to just have a nice patch of grass you can mow once a week, to hopefully make it accessible and simple. Because yeah, you start looking into it like anything, sure, landscaping's the exact same. You just got to lay those pavers, or you just, I just mow it, water it and fertilize. But there's a lot more to it when it comes down to it. So to share those little things and get people send their progress photos of, this is how my lawn looked when I first started following you and this is it now, or when I bought your program versus now, is awesome. Yeah, to see that they've got a beautiful space to. Sorry, I was winding up, but one of my best things, I guess, in being into lawn care, my social media stuff, was one of my wife's friends asked me for advice. And so I was exchanging messages with her, and then she showed me her starting point. And then one day she just put onto Facebook some photos of her kids, and they were like all piled up on each other on this beautiful green patch of grass in their backyard, all with smiles on their faces. And I'm like, that is cool. Like, she didn't send it to me or tag me or anything, but I just saw that and I was like, that is pretty cool. She had a patch of crappy dirt and she's done it all herself, and now got a really nice green patch that her kids are all jumping on each other and playing on. Like, that's pretty cool. So yeah.
Yeah, that was the first thing I did at my house, because we built, been in here nearly 12 months. But yeah, I just did a patch of lawn out the back, because my previous house had fake grass, but I was never a big fan of it.
Oh, and that's the end of the podcast. See you later, mate.
But so yeah, this one I wanted real stuff, so put some Tiff Tuff down, and I got dreams of getting a real mower, but watching your videos, I'm one of those two people that commented as well. I don't know if I want to go to this much effort, because if it's not sharp, then you're just making it, you're bending it over, and that's again one of the things I liked about your series was, I've heard people talk about, if it's not cutting paper, you got to sharpen it and all this other stuff, and they were talking about backlapping, and I had no idea what they were talking about. But then you've actually shown, you put a piece of paper in there, and if it's cutting it, it's good. If it's not, you got to sharpen it. So
yeah,
it's good showing, like, not just talking about it, but showing what people need to be doing as well.
Yeah. And then that's where it's hard as well, because there's so much you want to be able to concisely say and put in those videos. And that's where I've started to create and work on things like that. Like, I just released a renovation guide as well. It's like, I just want to be able to try and get all this stuff into one place. And it's kind of like, sometimes I think people might see one video and then it opens up 3 more questions, sort of thing as well. So yeah, that's where trying to keep it concise. And that's where YouTube's great as well, because I can expand on what I'm talking about a lot more, even though people don't migrate across from Instagram to YouTube as much as you would like. But yeah, just to be able to try and package it all up, put it all together so that people can understand what they're doing. So yeah, sorry you were one of the 2, mate.
Well, I would have been 3 if I commented, but I thought, it's a negative comment. I don't do that, so I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah. But no, it's
But yeah,
definitely a commitment, and it's like, it's one of those things, like, whether it's woodworking or anything, like, you've only got so much time to commit to it. So yeah, if you're happy with, a bit of fertilizer every couple of months, every few months, and run out with the rotary, and you've got a nice enough green patch, doesn't have to be the MCG to be able to be enjoyed by people. I had a mate come over a couple of weeks ago, and he's standing back and he's looking at it and he's like, mate, that is just fantastic. I was like, come around, stand over here, because he was standing facing the sun. I'm like, sun at your back, you'll be able to see the stripes. He's like, no, mate, I don't need that. It looks. Whereas for me, I'm like, if I go stand over there, it's going to look heaps better. So it's very few people who really, really look at the nitty gritty stuff. They just kind of, that looks green, good job, and off they go. So yeah.
Yeah, we've got a client coming up. We're about to start their project, and I am on the way to their in their street. I noticed a house where they're like, I can tell when they've got a real mower, because it obviously looks amazing. And I asked them if they'd noticed that, because they were talking about putting some grass out the front, and I said, yeah, we had noticed that actually. So now he's gonna buy a real mower as well.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it is addictive, and there's a lot more people getting into it now than what there was 5 years ago, I reckon.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, massive boom in social. And I feel like around the time I started, there was a lot of other people who were similar to me who, not previous golf course backgrounds, and like guys like Ben and Brenton from the Aussie Lawn and stuff like that. Those guys who were worked on golf courses, and they've genuinely got really in-depth knowledge. A lot of homeowners and guys like myself who have got a real passion for it have learned a lot, know a lot more than the average person, and share what we know, and happy to pass on those things. I'd never claim to be as knowledgeable as Ben or guys that have, yeah, like I said, worked on golf courses for years and things like that, which is, it all comes down to that transparency. But yeah, so yeah, to be able to share that, and all those guys who have gotten into it and sort of came through and comment on each other's videos, it's a really good community of those guys who have all gotten into it, started accounts, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's a big boom in it, and I think it's great that more people take pride in the way their house looks, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you had any moments of imposter syndrome where you thought, well, yeah, you're just teaching what you've learned yourself, like you're self-taught in it?
Yes, for sure. For sure. I think even with my lawn programs and stuff, it was something that I spoke to Ben about, because he sells lawn programs, and he's a guy that's been in the industry for a long time and blah, blah, blah. And so I spoke to him and was like, mate, like I'm thinking about this, and, like, what do you think? And he was like, mate, 100% do it. 100% support. Was like, the bigger the industry gets, and the more, things like that happen, and you have your audience, and I've got mine, other people got theirs. Like, the more the whole industry grows, the more everyone benefits. And he was super supportive. Whereas if he had to turn around and said, oh, look, mate, you haven't worked on a golf course, or, been doing it for 20 years, and I don't know if it would be the best or whatever, I probably would have gone, yeah, fair enough. And that's where Luke has given me a lot of feedback on my programs and stuff as well. Ben's looked over anything I've released as well as other guys in the industry to, yeah, like it's at the end of the day, would you want surgery from a guy who's got an interest in medicine and watch Grey's Anatomy? Probably not. Can you buy a lawn program from a guy who's, loves lawn care and knows a lot about it, doesn't have degrees or certificates and stuff? It's all relative, and important to understand that context, I guess. So yeah, definitely a bit of imposter syndrome. It's a comment that I did get at one point, was about how I just repeat what other people say, and it's like, that's what everyone does. Everyone was a complete novice in what they are an expert in now.
Yeah.
Everyone is repeating something they've learned from someone else, or mixing it with their own experiences and sharing it. That is, every single teacher in the world does that every single time they're in front of a classroom, etc. So it's a pretty dumb comment, I think. Everyone's sharing what they learned from someone else. And imagine if no one shared what they learned, we'd be back in the caveman days pretty quick.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely have had plenty of moments of that sort of imposter syndrome. Always learning, always happy to admit fault, or times when I've made mistakes that I'll make a video and say, yeah, look, I stuffed up here because of X, Y, Z, and sharing it then as a tip to be like, hey, don't be like me, don't make this mistake. And I've, had people who are contractors and stuff as well, who have, said they've learned from me and things too. So it's all for us to live in this age of being able to share knowledge, learn from each other, is amazing. It's an amazing age of social media and everything, to be able to learn and to share knowledge. Unfortunately, that comes with a lot of crap as well. And that comes to what I was saying earlier about who you trust and that sort of thing, and who you build that trust with, and believe what they say. Because I don't know, there'll be people out there who are happy to stand in front of a camera and say this is 100% true when they've just kind of made it up. Whereas even things where I know the answer, sometimes in a DM where people ask me questions or something, I'll still just do a quick Google just because I want to. And that's just in the privacy of a DM to some person I don't know and I'm never going to speak to. But I'll just in case, I'll just quickly Google that just to check, because it would be my worst nightmare to recommend a product to someone or a tool or anything, and it goes and kills their lawn, or they've wasted $50, $60, $100 more on something that doesn't work or is the wrong thing for them. So yeah, it's something that to me is fundamentally important and that I am conscious of. And I'm very aware and transparent about my, yeah, I guess, experience and all that sort of stuff. And even now coming into building this veggie garden and doing a few things with that, I'm sure there'll be a few, people in the timber side of things, that carpentry side of things, that see certain ways of doing things. And it's like, look, do you know what? There's so many ways you can join two bits of timber, and if mine joins together and it looks okay, I'm just a dad here having a crack. So yeah, I'm always happy to share. I'm always know that people with the sort of audience you have are gonna come and have something to say or think that their way is better. And that's just, unfortunately, at times, human nature.
Yeah. Well, as long as you're aware of like the fact that there are more than one way to skin a cat. Like the way to do lawn isn't exactly the same for everyone. Same with building a veggie garden and what you're going to put in that veggie garden. I'm doing a landscaping course at the moment. Like I'm creating it, and I've been landscaping for 19 years, and I'm doubting some things that I'm coming up with. Because like the way I do something isn't necessarily the way everyone does it. So then I think, oh, should I teach that? What if it's different to other people? So yeah, it's perfectly normal. But you've got the proof is in the pudding. Like if you look at your lawn, you obviously know what you're talking about. So if you're just sharing that, and it's the same with the work we do. So as long as you're aware, and then and also realizing that not everyone is a decent person. So no matter what you do, there's going to be people who think you're wrong.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And that's something, there's a guy I follow, Aussie Decking Chippy. He does some interesting stuff and some really high quality work. But even, he had some stories recently, and he was getting a lot of negativity of the way he was doing certain things. And he was explaining it in depth on his stories about how and why he was doing something. But it's like, this guy's clearly a highly qualified, does incredible work, sort of chippy. And there's still people sitting there who are going, oh, I would have done it this way. You're doing it wrong, blah, blah, blah. It's like, there's so many ways to get a lawn green. There's so many ways to get fit and run a marathon. There's so many ways to join some timber. Your way might work, and there's probably 50 other ways to do it as well. So yeah. I mean, it'd be nicer if those people that think their way is the only way, had a mute button. But it's always going to be there, always.
Yeah, I like when there's like you'll see a negative comment like that, like saying I would have done it this way, and you see another person comment on that saying, well, "Where's your video then? Go and do it yourself if you're gonna do it that way, or just scroll on."
Yeah, I've had people. I don't do, like, it's on a lawn renovation compilation or something. I don't do any of this stuff, and my lawn looks better than yours. And so I'm like, send me photos. I'll look out for the message. Like, show me. That's great. Well done. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, still waiting, I assume.
Yeah. The messages never come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw actually just recently there was a page that was mainly shows a certain plant, and then they were showing something that wasn't relevant to that too much for one viewer. So he made a comment saying, I've been following for years and now I'm not following anymore because of this. And it would have taken him a lot longer to write that message than just to scroll on to the next post. Like,
yep.
That's crazy how precious some people get.
Yeah, that's just what an exhausting way to live.
Yeah.
What an exhausting way to live, to always be, it's like it's like some people, do you scroll onto a cooking video and say, I don't like this recipe? Do you scroll the next one is, like, do you just do this flat? Was I the lucky one for tonight? Or what a exhausting way to live.
Yeah. So what's in there? Do you have any plans that you work towards, like a 1 year goal or 5 year goal that you're trying to do with the social media?
Not particularly, just sort of, yeah, I don't know. I think it's all, yeah, I really enjoy doing it, is the important thing, to be honest.
Oh, you have to.
Yeah. And I've had a few times where I've been kind of had times where I'm like, like, do I love this? It's making videos to post on, Instagram. Like, is it that important? Is it, like, am I going to be doing this in 5 years, 10 years? That kind of thing, where I've really doubted it. And it might be, a couple of days where, I don't know, for whatever reason, I'm feeling a bit low or something. But yeah, as a whole, I really enjoy making videos. My mind really ticks over in terms of thinking about it. Like, oh, this will make a really good video. Or this is a really good tip. So, and I actually really enjoy the process of editing the videos, actually using the programs and making all those little cuts and putting it all together. The YouTube editing, I think early on was a struggle, and I was lucky to have Ben Sims to help me through it with different shortcuts. Even on Saturday, I would text him back and forth because I'd lost my file. And so he's helping me find stuff. But I actually really enjoy it. I do it first thing in the morning. So I get up the morning, I'm not running or going to the gym or something, and I'll get up and I'll sit there until the kids wake up and edit, and I really enjoy it and look forward to it. So if that gets to a point where I don't enjoy it anymore, then it'll probably just drift away. I think I'm in a bit of a position where, the way I present my content and things like that if I really did want to make a push to try and like TV and that sort of thing, try and become the next presenter on Better Homes and Gardens or something like that. Like if that's a goal I wanted to set myself and go down that path, I'm not saying I could do it, but I'm saying if that's something I wanted to try and achieve, I probably could with what I'm doing. I don't know if if that would be for me. I don't know if I'd be really happy doing my same social media content and having a lawn care business where I do kind of higher end packages. I don't think I could just turn up and mow someone's weeds every 3 weeks, like sort of almost having other people's houses like how I want to make my house, and, have them as project lawns for myself as a business. Potentially a path I might go down. That'll especially be once the kids are at school, which, Hudson's at 3 years off school, and house renovations are going to take time. So sort of once the house is finished being renovated, kids at school, it's like, all right, how do my days get filled then? Is social media still taking up all of that time, and am I loving it? Like I said, do I start a business and I kind of work in school hours and it's kind of a part-time-ish 25-30 hour a week kind of business? I'm not sure how that looks for me, but for right now, what I'm doing right this second, I'm really enjoying. So I'm very fortunate to have my wife bringing in the the bacon from that perspective and doing well in business, and so supportive of everything I do. And I think especially early on, coming from working full time and everything, like if I did spend a day doing fun stuff, quote unquote fun stuff that I would normally have done on the weekend, mowing, recording, DIY or whatever, not boring painting or, boring renovation stuff, I'd feel guilty and kind of have had a good day, but not have a good day. Because I'm like, torn between, this is too much fun kind of thing. I don't know how to describe it properly, but so to be able to be kind of bringing in money from it now is great. And when I do spend a day recording YouTube video, I make like 30 or 40 bucks for a YouTube video. Like doesn't, only just pays for itself. But so to be able to do what I do, enjoy it, have time with the kids so they're not in childcare all the time, not have to go to a teaching job and put up with those issues. It's an incredibly fortunate position. So I look forward to hopefully being able to keep making lots of content to help people with their gardening, DIY, obviously lawn care. And I'm really not sure, because I would have said 4 or so years ago, I would have said, I'll be a teacher till I'm 60, 65. And, that's just what I'll do. So it's amazing how life can change. So look, my Instagram in 3-4 years time might be a cooking page. I don't know.
It would certainly be different to what it is now anyway.
And that's even there's probably going to be a few like I love cooking. I absolutely love cooking. So, when the veggie garden's going and I'm making pasta sauces and I'm, cooking a whole dinner that's all veggies from our garden, there's probably going to be a few cooking videos that I end up posting, So anyway, it'll
People are going to get upset at that.
And that's the, like you said about that guy before, like if you enjoy it, like create the content you want to enjoy at the end of the day. Like I think some people might get hung up with social media as a whole of how do I get views, and at the end of the day, if you're making stuff you enjoy and everything and putting out there something you're genuinely passionate about, not just trying to gain followers or get views or whatever, if it's what you're doing and you enjoy it and you're passionate, I think people sense that and follow and enjoy the journey with you.
I'm in the process. I'm I think 3 days in. I've got a time lapse set up on my cherry tomatoes so that it's going to show them grow and then turn orange. So that's going to go on my landscaping page as well, just because I reckon it's cool to show. Hopefully,
Yeah.
no one gets upset at that when that goes on there.
Yeah, but
Um,
that's just it. That's just it. Yeah. Those long-term time lapses are cool.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I want to do more of those.
Last question for you, Nick, is who do you think would be a good guest to have on the podcast?
Oh, I'd have to stick in my realm, I reckon. Say a guy like Ben Sims, Brenton from the Aussie Lawn, one of those guys from YouTube or something like that. Super knowledgeable, yeah, about lawn and all that sort of thing, which is an important part of a landscape, isn't it? So,
Yeah.
yeah, let's say one of those guys.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. And first person not in the industry, but I love chatting to you. So it was an awesome chat. And no doubt people learn a lot, certainly about the social media side of things. So thank you
Yeah,
very much for coming on.
hopefully I can stay the only person who says they're not in the industry. Hopefully no one beats me to that.
I'll make sure to do
Awesome, mate.
that.
Thanks heaps for having me. Cheers.